This man was betrayed by his own superior and ended up falling into the hands of the Soviet army. The first thing he had to face was being thrown into a mud pit nearly 10 feet deep, filled with giant Asian leeches. After feeding on his blood, each one became swollen and huge. After that, he was repeatedly beaten in the face with batons and even brutally tortured with electric shocks every night. Even more devastating, the woman he loved the most was also killed. So what will he do to escape from his enemies when they are armed with guns and powerful weapons? To find his way back and take revenge for himself and the woman he loved, let us dive into this movie together. Rambo is a retired war veteran. Previously, he was arrested after causing chaos at a police station. Now, he has become a prisoner and is forced to perform hard labor in a stone quarry. One day, the colonel comes to meet Rambo once again and offers him a secret search and rescue mission. If he successfully completes this mission, he may even receive a pardon and be released early. After hearing this, Rambo immediately agrees to his request, not for any other reason, but because he trusts the colonel who once fought side by side with him on the battlefield. Soon, Rambo is taken to an American military base in Thailand, where he meets the commander in charge. The commander tells Rambo that his mission this time is to search for missing prisoners of war in Vietnam. However, he is only allowed to take photos to confirm the situation and is not permitted to engage in combat. Once he confirms the location of the prisoners, the colonel will send his team in to carry out the rescue operation. After making some simple preparations with his equipment, Rambo boards a helicopter and officially begins his mission. This time, his mission is extremely difficult. Within only 36 hours, he must complete everything infiltrating the target area, taking photographic evidence, and safely escaping. And there, besides a local contact named Ko Bao who will support him, he has absolutely no backup forces behind him. This mission is truly Rambo's one-man war. However, just as he reaches the drop zone, an unexpected accident occurs. When Rambo prepares to jump from the aircraft, a cable gets caught around his waist, leaving him hanging in midair. Under the force of the powerful wind, his life could be in danger at any moment. In this critical situation, Rambo has no choice but to use his knife to cut the rope. After that, he throws away all the heavy equipment attached to him, allowing him to escape the dangerous situation. He then parachutes down and moves deep into the tropical jungle. Rambo crosses mountains, rivers, and pushes through the dense forest. His most urgent mission now is to quickly find Ko Bao, the person who will assist him here. Finally, near a large rock, he finds Ko Bao holding a gun in her hands. But what Rambo never expected was that the person responsible for helping him would actually be a young woman. Under Ko Bao's guidance, Rambo arrives at an abandoned dock. She takes out a stack of money and gives it to the group of men in front of them. After a simple exchange, the two board the boat and continue their journey. Eventually, as night begins to fall, they finally approach the Vietnamese military base. However, because Rambo was forced to throw away all of his equipment and camera during the parachute jump, he now has no choice but to personally infiltrate the camp and investigate the real situation of the prisoners of war. Don't tell me you're planning to go in there. I thought you were only here to take pictures. What about your orders? Forget the orders. After saying that, Rambo picks up his bow and grabs his knife. Alone, he begins moving toward the enemy camp. First, Rambo uses his knife to cut through the barbed wire fence and quietly sneaks inside. But unexpectedly, this place is heavily guarded, with soldiers stationed everywhere. Because of that, Rambo can only hide in the darkness and carefully observe the situation. Finally, near a small stream, he discovers a hidden area where a group of prisoners of war are being held. Just as Rambo is preparing to find a way to rescue everyone, he suddenly notices a soldier tied up and hanging from a pole nearby. Without hesitation, Rambo immediately approaches and uses his knife to cut the ropes, preparing to take the prisoner away from this place. But during their escape, they accidentally run into a group of patrolling soldiers. To avoid alerting the enemy, Rambo immediately throws his knife and takes one of them down. After that, he quickly pulls out his bow, eliminates another soldier, and leads the prisoner away from the dangerous area. However, Ko Bao, who is hiding outside, is unexpectedly discovered by another soldier. At that critical moment, Rambo fires an arrow, hitting the enemy and pinning him against a tree. In the end, all three of them successfully escape from the base without facing any further danger. The next morning, the bodies of the three soldiers are discovered. The commander immediately orders his forces to gather and begins searching for the person who entered the jungle. Meanwhile, Rambo and the others return to the small river. They board the same boat from earlier and quickly leave the area. Not long after, the pursuing forces discover traces of Rambo's group. They immediately send out patrol boats and begin chasing him down along the river. When the pirates saw the military patrol boat chasing them from behind, they immediately turned against Rambo and pointed their guns directly at his head. They did not want to make enemies with the local military, but they had no idea that the man standing in front of them was even more dangerous than the people chasing them. While the pirates were distracted, Rambo quickly pulled out 2 hidden knives from his belt and instantly took one of them down. After that, he grabbed a gun and fired 5 consecutive shots, eliminating all the pirates in front of him. At this moment, the patrol boat behind them was getting closer and began firing a storm of bullets at the small boat. Seeing this, Rambo quickly told Ko Bao and the rescued prisoner to jump into the river. Meanwhile, he waited for the perfect moment, pulled out a bazooka hidden inside the boat, and fired directly at the pursuing patrol boat, destroying it completely. Just as Rambo was about to jump off the boat, the last remaining pirate suddenly wrapped a rope around his neck. In that dangerous moment, Rambo pulled out his knife, defeated the pirate, and successfully escaped the pursuit. After rescuing the prisoner, Rambo worried about Ko Bao's safety, so he asked her to leave first. He then took the rescued prisoner to the planned extraction point to continue the rescue mission. However, when the 2 of them reached a rice field, they were unexpectedly discovered by the soldiers searching for them. Soon after, the soldiers quickly launched an attack against Rambo and the prisoner. Fortunately, the colonel arrived just in time and immediately started an aerial counterattack. With the colonel's support, Rambo and the rescued prisoner finally reached the extraction point safely. After that, the colonel contacted the base commander and reported that Rambo had successfully rescued a prisoner of war, meaning they could now begin the rescue operation immediately. However, after hearing this news, the commander became extremely angry. He ordered everyone to leave the room, then grabbed the radio and shouted, "I want you to abort the mission immediately. I repeat, this is an order." After receiving the command, the pilot prepared to leave the area. But the colonel could not bring himself to abandon Rambo, so he ignored the order and prepared to rush in to save him. However, he was immediately stopped by another soldier pointing a gun at him. Powerless to do anything, he could only watch as Rambo desperately shouted from below. Watching the helicopter fly further and further away, Rambo had no choice but to lower the weapon in his hands. Soon after, a large group of soldiers quickly surrounded them and brought Rambo and the prisoner back to the base. They threw Rambo into a mud pit and waited for the Soviet soldiers to arrive and interrogate him. Before long, Soviet Lieutenant Colonel Podolsky stepped down from a helicopter. He ordered his men to remove the leeches from Rambo's body, clean him up, and take him into the interrogation room. He wanted Rambo to contact the base and promised that he would never continue this mission again. After hearing his demand, Rambo only gave him a cold response. But the base that Rambo had risked his life to protect was hiding an even darker truth. The colonel was furious that the commander had abandoned the rescue mission. So after returning to the base, the 2 of them got into a heated argument. At that moment, the commander finally revealed his true plan. It turned out that he sent Rambo to search for prisoners only as a public relations move for the media. He never intended to spend a large amount of money rescuing the people still trapped there. After hearing this, the colonel was completely outraged. He said those prisoners were all people who had sacrificed for their country, and they should never be treated this way. Especially an experienced warrior like Rambo, the colonel firmly believed that he would definitely survive and find a way back. But after hearing this, the commander only looked at him with a cold and dismissive expression. Meanwhile, Rambo had been strapped into an electric torture device by Podolsky. But even though the electric shocks made his entire body tremble, he still refused to surrender. After that, Podolsky played a recording of an intercepted call from the American pilot and revealed the truth that the base had already abandoned the rescue mission. But Rambo remained strong and refused to give up. Seeing that he would not cooperate, Podolsky brought out the remaining prisoner and threatened to hurt him. With no other choice, Rambo finally agreed to his demand and called the American military base. However, the very next moment, he suddenly used the radio equipment to attack the soldier beside him. At the same time, Ko Bao, who had secretly been hiding nearby for a long time, opened fire to support him. It turned out that ever since Rambo was captured and taken back to the base, she had secretly followed and watched everything that happened. After that, with Ko Bao's help, the 2 of them worked together to escape the enemy's encirclement and leave the camp. They continued running for a long distance. Finally, when morning arrived, they reached a small river. Rambo was extremely grateful to Ko Bao for saving his life. He promised that after completing the mission, he would take her back to America with him. After hearing those words, Ko Bao was filled with happiness. She hugged Rambo tightly, and the 2 shared a kiss. But just after she walked a few steps away, she was suddenly shot by the pursuing soldiers. Rambo immediately fought back and took down the entire group of soldiers. However, when he turned around and saw Ko Bao lying in the water, she was already barely holding on. In the end, Ko Bao lay in Rambo's arms and said her final words. "Promise me you will never forget me." After that, she took her last breath. Seeing the woman he loved disappear right in front of him, this time Rambo was truly consumed by anger. After burying Ko Bao, Rambo removes her necklace and puts it around his own neck. After that, he begins planning his revenge deep inside the jungle. He pulls out his bow and arrow and takes down the commander standing in front of him because he was the one who took away the woman Rambo loved the most. But the soldiers behind him still continue chasing him. Because of that, Rambo has no choice but to continue fighting alone. He hides inside a tree hole and takes down the soldiers passing by. Then, he hides again on a tree branch and deals with the armed enemies approaching him. After that, he covers his entire body with mud, blending perfectly into the surrounding environment before suddenly launching his attack. In just a short amount of time, Rambo manages to defeat a large number of soldiers. After that, he escapes and hides inside a small village. Seeing a rooster and a pile of straw in front of him, Rambo suddenly comes up with a plan. He intentionally spreads the chicken's blood onto the reeds and lures the pursuing soldiers deeper into the bushes. But by the time they discover the dead chicken and realize what is happening, it is already too late. At this moment, Rambo has already climbed to a higher position and uses his homemade explosive arrow to blow up the entire reed area. But things are far from over. After that, Rambo uses his bow and arrow again to destroy a Soviet truck parked on the road. Then, he runs straight toward the waterfall area. But right at this moment, a helicopter flies over Rambo's head and drops explosives toward his location. Luckily, Rambo reacts extremely quickly and immediately jumps into the water beside him, allowing him to escape the danger. However, a soldier on the helicopter begins using a machine gun to continuously fire into the water. They control the helicopter and fly close to the lake's surface to make sure Rambo has been eliminated. But suddenly, Rambo emerges from underwater and pulls the soldier down into the lake. After that, he jumps into the helicopter and fights against the man inside. During the struggle, Rambo finds the perfect opportunity and pushes him out of the helicopter, sending him falling straight down. Seeing that the situation is getting worse, the pilot immediately decides to jump out of the aircraft. Meanwhile, Rambo quickly takes control of the unstable helicopter and flies toward the enemy camp. He begins launching continuous attacks from above, causing the entire area to quickly become engulfed in flames. The explosion scenes in this part are truly satisfying and spectacular. After that, Rambo lands a helicopter near the cave where the prisoners of war are being held. With heavy fire support, he helps each prisoner get onto the helicopter one by one. But right at this moment, a Soviet soldier suddenly gets back up and shoots one of the prisoners. Seeing this, Rambo instantly becomes furious and fires back at him. However, their helicopter does not get far before Podovsky's aircraft catches up and starts attacking them relentlessly. At the most dangerous moment, Rambo's helicopter runs out of ammunition, leaving him with no choice but to focus on avoiding the attacks. But very quickly, the tail of his helicopter is hit by Podovsky, causing the entire aircraft to shake violently. Podovsky takes the opportunity and fires a missile. Smoke and flames immediately cover his entire field of vision. When he is finally able to see clearly again, Podovsky discovers that Rambo's helicopter has made an emergency landing in the lake. Believing that Rambo has definitely been eliminated, he quickly lowers his helicopter to check the situation. But at that exact moment, Rambo suddenly opens his eyes. Taking advantage of Podovsky's lowered guard, he immediately grabs the rocket launcher and fires directly at him. After a massive explosion, Podovsky and his helicopter disappear into the flames. After that, Rambo brings the prisoners back to the American military base. The first thing he does after stepping off the aircraft is grab his weapon and storm straight into the facility. He destroys all the high-tech equipment in front of him, then finds the commander with a face full of anger. Next, he pulls the knife from his waist, grabs the commander by the collar, and slams him down onto the table. Although the commander keeps explaining that he never wanted to abandon the rescue mission, at this moment, Rambo can no longer listen to any of his excuses. He drives his knife into the table and asks, "Do you know there are still many people out there? Do you know where they are? If you don't find them, I will come back for you." At the end of the movie, the colonel invites Rambo to return with him. However, Rambo refuses his offer. He cannot understand why he loves his country so much, yet time after time, he feels abandoned by the very same country he fought for. In reality, what these veterans want is very simple. They only hope that their country can love them the same way they once loved their country. The action movie First Blood Part 2 was released in 1985. Compared to the previous film, the combat atmosphere in this sequel becomes much more intense and exciting. Especially with the appearance of the female lead, the story of this powerful warrior gains a completely new emotional side. And the final line of the movie, "We just want our country to love us as much as we love it." This sentence also shows us the helplessness and bitterness hidden behind these heroes. Alright, that is the end of today's movie recap. If you enjoyed this video and want to support us, please leave a like and share it. Thank you so much for watching. See you again in the next videos. Bye bye.